Can Donald Trump win the general election if he keeps making comments like this?
Well, there was an interesting column by Peggy Noonan in the Wall Street Journal the other day in which she was talking to a Hispanic friend who listens to Hispanic language or Spanish language radio, apparently in New York, and was saying that when these kind of controversies come up about Donald Trump and Hispanics, the hosts get lots and lots of calls from Hispanics supporting Donald Trump. They're opposed to illegal immigration too. So she called the radio station and talked to the host, and he said, yes, in fact, this is true. So I would just leave the door open here that what he says may well turn out to be true about this. And the second
there
thing
was another poll recently, though, that shows that 82% of Hispanics view Donald Trump unfavorably. So, those two things aren't adding up.
He's turned his unfavorables around, by considerable numbers. I think they went from 27% to 60-some-odd% in one case, not with Hispanics, but to show that it can be done. And one other thing here that Gloria is saying, and she's right about this in terms of his base, Rush Limbaugh spent considerable time on his radio show discussing this and saying how stunned he was that it is controversial at all to defend speaking in English. And I can tell you that really will resonate with the conservative base. They'll sort of roll their eyes at this. That is not going to help Governor Bush.
Katrina, has Donald Trump said anything?
Speaking English is not controversial. Jeb Bush speaks perfect English, and he speaks English most of the time. So let's not, let's not pretend that the controversy here is that Jeb Bush doesn't speak English. Jeb Bush speaks English. He speaks it
what was
most
that
of the
question?
time. The controversy here is that Jeb Bush also speaks Spanish, and that Mr. Trump, I guess, finds that offensive. And I frankly find it ignorant. I think that if you know more than one language and you can express yourself in it, why not? I hope that more people learn more languages. It is a huge asset in business. It's a huge asset in life.
Right.
Jeffrey, go ahead and respond, and then I have a question for Katrina.
Sure. It's not just Spanish. I mean, it's all languages. The implication here that springs from this whole illegal immigration situation is that the country is being forced, in other words, to a different culture than the one it has, the American culture, that it's being, in the words of Victor Davis Hanson, ethnic triumphalism. And, that's not a good thing. And to the extent that Governor Bush would be perceived as on the side of that in one way or another, that's not helpful to him.
So, Katrina, let me ask you.
Right now, Donald Trump is suing Univision for $500 million because he thinks that's what it's worth to him to reach the Hispanics, the Spanish-speaking Hispanics in the United States. So instead of telling Jeb to set an example, maybe he should set an example and drop the suit. Because I don't understand why, if he's so offended by people speaking Spanish, he'd want to reach them and he'd want to be in a network that speaks Spanish and that promotes this.
Univision broke a contract with him. He's suing them because they
a contract with him to carry his pageants in Spanish for the Spanish speakers in the United States. The people that he finds so offensive.
You don't get a pass in breaking a contract because you speak Spanish.
Let me let Katrina get into this conversation. Go ahead, Katrina.
Jeffrey.
I know you have a thought. Go ahead, Katrina.
Yeah, my thought, I think the whole anti-Hispanic idea that, Trump is universally against Hispanics, the root of that really started with immigration. And the root of that started because people misinterpreted what he was saying about immigration. So all of a sudden, people think that Trump is anti-Hispanics, and he's not. But all of this back and forth has caused Hispanics to really, truly believe that. And I get a lot of support from Hispanics that tell me, we understand, Katrina, and we support Trump because we understand that that was not what he meant to say, that it was misconstrued by the media. But then there's Hispanics that truly believe everything that they hear and see in the media. And I'm telling you, as a Hispanic woman who has known Donald Trump since 2004, he is not anti-Hispanics. And I am so proud of my culture. I am so proud. I'm a Cuban American. My parents came here at a very young age, and I want legal immigration to work the right way. I don't want to have to pay for illegal immigrants. I don't want to have to pay tax dollars so that they can get better health care than I can as an American. That's the point here that Donald Trump's trying to make. All of this anti-Hispanic stuff is just
That's
noise.
Maybe, Katrina,
That's
because
not what
people
Donald
that
Trump
are Cuban American get all of it for free under the Cuban Adjustment Act after they come here illegally and set foot in the United States.
Can we just say
I'm talking about...
Can we just say that?
Right,
no
and I'm
matter
telling you that
whether,
people like your parents, that Cuban Americans, many of my friends have an advantage over other immigrants that nobody else has. There is something called the Cuban Adjustment Act that gives them all sorts of benefits.
Okay, so let's talk. So let's talk about the other immigrants,
regardless of how they come.
Let's talk about the other immigrants, because my husband's actually going through immigration right now. So I'm very familiar with this topic, and he's doing it the legal way, and it's costing him a lot of money, and it's a long process. So why should he have to do it the legal way, but then people are coming into this country illegally, and we as Americans are paying because they can't afford to be here? That's all Donald Trump is saying. Do you want your tax dollars to go to supporting illegal immigrants when our health insurance is a bloody mess and our premiums are so expensive? We don't even have jobs for Americans in this country.
That is why Donald Trump is changing his tone on immigration. Because when this entire debate started, and he is changing his tone, when Donald Trump was out there, he was more bombastic and talking about, quote unquote, who's doing the raping and all the rest of it. That is why
what's happening is people are. What's happening is people are
Gloria, go ahead and finish,
because they're beginning to understand.
That is why
what's happening. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That is why his unfavorable rating among Hispanics has skyrocketed. What I can tell you is that Mitt Romney lost the last election. He had 27% of Hispanic voters. In talking to Mitt Romney about that, Romney was the first one to say the Republican Party has to do much better than I did. When George W. Bush won the election, he had 44% of Hispanics. The Republican nominee has to do at least that well. And so at this point, Donald Trump has to figure out a way to navigate that, what has become a very, very difficult terrain for him.
I want to ask one last question to Katrina before we head into a break. Katrina, has Donald Trump said anything or done anything, though, that strikes you a little shockingly, in which you wish he hadn't said?
No, Donald Trump is Donald Trump, and that's what people love about him. And I'll tell you another thing. A lot of Hispanic clients of mine have told me that they're going to vote for Trump. They just don't want to go out in public and expose themselves. And that tells you right then and there that they understand what he's trying to say. I am so proud. I want to emphasize this. I am so proud of my culture, and I am so proud that I'm a Hispanic American. And I'll tell you that there's a lot of people that I know that are telling me that they're going to vote for Trump, and they are Hispanic.